On this episode of the Naturist Living Show, Keeping Youth.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show is brought to you by Bare Oaks Family Naturist Park. At Bare Oaks, we offer traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Free your body, free your mind. www.bareoaks.ca.
Welcome, dear listener, to episode 107 of the Naturist Living Show. My name is Stéphane Deschênes. I'm your host for this podcast, and I'm the owner of Bare Oaks Family Naturist Park. And if you had been trying to catch up, I have to apologize. It would depend on which feed you were using. But in the transition from Blogger to our current WordPress site, somehow some of the episodes got messed up. I won't get into technical details, but it affected the RSS feed, and some episodes were not showing up. Spotify was one of them. Mostly 2017 episodes, but some before, some after as well. It seemed a bit random. Couldn't figure out what was happening until I found that inconsistency in the RSS feed and fixed it. So, not to belabor this point too much, but if you were listening to back episodes, you may have missed some. You may have noticed if you were looking at the numbers, but I didn't get any complaints, so perhaps people were just listening one after the other, if that's what's happening. So my apologies. You may want to go take a look if you had been trying to catch up. So we've done 2 episodes already in the past about attracting youth. Episode 47 in September of 2012 was about attracting youth, and we had that's a very popular episode. We've had a lot of feedback on that one. And before that, we'd done episode 39 in January 2012, which was about youth in naturism. Teenagers and youth and young adults, it was called, in naturism. Because there are some, they don't all automatically leave, contrary to popular belief. But of course, it's harder to attract them, or at least it seems to be. And as you've heard in those 2 episodes, we don't have any problems at Bare Oaks attracting them. Some clubs do, and some clubs don't. And Nick and Lynn's, you know them from a previous episode of Naturist Living Show, in their Naked Wanderings blog, did one about why do teenagers turn away from nudism, and is that such a big deal? And their point there was that it's something that happens. And it's true. You do lose a certain number of teenagers, and that's what we're going to talk about. And there may not be much you can do about it. But there is definitely something you can do, and it can make a difference. But some loss is inevitable. I myself have 2 boys who are now at this point 19 and 22. One is still a very active participant in naturism, and he comes regularly. And my eldest, he never went through a stage where he didn't want to be there. My youngest decided when he was, I think, 15, that he had, well, there's a few things. If he did not come up, he got to stay home alone. He had a very close relationship with friends from high school. We don't live in the park, so he had friends in the neighborhood that he was close to. He didn't have as close of a network at Bare Oaks. He had a few friends, but not as many as my eldest did. And I think also he decided that he wanted to be his own person. He wanted to be different. And since his parents were hardcore naturist, I mean, you don't get much more hardcore than when you own a naturist club and do a podcast and been past president of the federation, etc. So he probably decided that maybe subconsciously, to be his own person, he had to not be a naturist. So he's not a regular attendee, but on the other hand, he told us last year that if we were going to a vacation in a naturist resort in the Caribbean, he would be happy to come along. And we told him that, well, we didn't want to argue with him about keeping his clothes on or not keeping his clothes on. He said, no, it wouldn't be a problem. So clearly he doesn't have the body shame, but he, at this point, is not participating with his parents. And, that's a normal thing anyway. A lot of teenagers don't really want to hang out with their parents. They want to do their own thing. They want to be with their friends. So I understand that's happening, but they're both wonderful young men, and I'm very proud to be their father, and I think they're going to do awesome things. But getting back to young people, there's a theory that all teenagers will move away from it, which is not true at all. There's a theory that they all have body shame, and there's a theory that they, or at least a story. I say theory, these are stories I hear, that they naturally develop a sense of body shame as they go through this awkward stage. I've seen a lot of instances when that's not true. I have heard how you're supposed to allow them to keep your clothes on in some situation, in some clubs, because of that awkward stage. And actually, it was an interesting observation when I was at CHM Montalivet in France. We were there, and my two boys were with us at the time, and I forget which one of them said, "Why are there so many people wearing bathing suits?" And that's because at Montalivet, they allow you to be clothed as you wish, except at the pool and on the beach. Now, a lot of people still are nude all the time, and we've talked about Montalivet in an earlier episode of the show, and it's a wonderful resort. But what I found interesting is, yes, the teenagers were all dressed, but they all went to the pool. And when they went to the pool, they, without any trace of shame, took all their clothes off, left them in the little lockers that were available for that purpose, and then went into the pool area. They weren't wrapping towels around themselves. They weren't hiding. They spent a long time, hours in some cases, hanging out completely nude in the pool. So clearly, if there is such a natural shame, they didn't have it. But when they were outside of the pool area and outside of the beach area, they dressed, because that was the fashion, the dress code that some did and the others followed. So sometimes I think that the issue is that it's allowed, and the default in any clothing optional environment is to put your clothes on if you're unsure, because that is what the world is like that most of us live in most of the time, and where we come from and where the influence is. Another false story is that young adults are not interested. At least in Canada, I can tell you for a fact that they are interested. In 2014, the Federation of Canadian Naturists and the Fédération Québécoise de Naturisme did a survey. And they did, it was a statistically significant survey. It was objective. It was done by a third party. And in terms of people who wanted to do naturism, it was about 8%. Sorry, 8% who have done naturism. And that was the same whether we're talking about young adults, 18 to 34. We didn't survey anybody under 18 years old. There's some ethical issues about that. And 8% for the rest, for the population in general. So it was about the same for young adults. But if you ask if they would do, then it jumped. The general population jumped from 8% to 14%. But the young adults, 18 to 34, jumped from 8% to 21%. So young people, according to a survey, at least in Canada, and I would imagine the United States is no different, are actually more interested in trying naturism than the rest of the population. So the fact that youth aren't interested is not true. But as I've said in many instances, in many of the other shows, I think one of the issues is that we have forgotten what naturism is about. Hence the concept of ethical naturism, which I introduced in an earlier show, where naturism isn't about taking your clothes off. Naturism is about accepting who you are, living a more natural life, showing respect for others. It's about changing society, and that's the thing that people are very passionate about. And youth in particular are always ready to change the world. They have passion. They're excited about joining and changing and getting involved in the world. So all that to say that there's all kinds of issues with teenagers in resorts. And yes, you can keep them. Yes, you will lose some. And I thought it'd be best to hear from some of them. The most interesting one that you'll hear about, and the inspiration for this podcast, is Nicole. Because Nicole spent, I think it was 5 years, very stubbornly keeping her clothes on. And we have a rule at Bare Oaks. We do allow people to keep their clothes on if they're staying overnight on their campsite. And that's to deal with reluctant spouses or teenagers. But if you're going to walk around, if you're going to use the facilities, then you have to take your clothes off if the environmental conditions permit. And so Nicole spent all her time with her family on her site, hardly ever leaving. But instead of me telling her story, why don't we listen to her tell her story?
Hi, my name's Nicole, and I'm 20 years old.
And when was the first time you were at a Naturist club?
It was back when Glen Echo was still a resort. So I was like 5 years old at the time. So when I met my grandma for the first time.
So you probably don't remember much from that time, do you?
No, I remember a lot actually. It was my childhood. It's like the mulberry tree. I don't know if you remember the mulberry tree. It was down by like the little kiddie pool. And you'd have to fill up the kiddie pool and you'd have to plug it from the pond, and then the fish and the little crayfish would so you'd have to fill that up and like take them out. And
so, all good memories?
oh yeah, 100%. Like my brother and I, like my twin brother, him and I grew up there, and lots of fun, croquet, and just, yeah. We were the only kids, but like it was a good experience.
And despite all that, at one point you decided it wasn't for you.
Yeah, so for me, I relate it to a child moving different schools. So Glen Echo, for those of you that don't know, got sold as like a textile estate. So we had to leave, but luckily there was a spot open at Bare Oaks. So our next summer we came here. However, I don't know. It was just like, I was really upset that like my childhood and what I really loved was gone, and we couldn't go back again. And we had to go to this new place where there were new people, like never been here before. Yeah, I was just not happy.
So how old were you and what did you do?
I was 11 years old, and when I came here, they're like, you have to be naked. And I was still angry, I guess, at the world. I wasn't even a teenager, but I was just angry and very stubborn. So I just told them, I was like, no, I'm not going to. So I just camped out on my site wearing clothes for 5-6 years.
So what was that like? Was it frustrating? Were you angry? How were you feeling all those years?
Well, at first, like my family tried to integrate me. I'm going to use that word specifically because they were very pushy. And I kept pushing back because they didn't respect my choice. And then my mom was like, I bet you $50 to go swimming in the pond. So I did. I got the money, went back to my site, put my clothes back on, continued to do what I was doing. Yeah, I just kept trucking along, doing my thing. And eventually, after my second summer of just doing my own thing, I was doing art and reading lots of books and just relaxing. I'd realized I was missing out on all the fun. But by that point, everyone had gotten used to me wearing clothes. And I don't like attention. That's a really big thing for me, is not drawing attention. And going from a nudist on strike to just parading around naked draws a lot of attention, which is unfortunate. So I just continued my way of life. And then eventually one of my family friends mentioned, hey, you should go to Whitethorn. It's a giant volleyball tournament. Lots of young kids your age. You'll have lots of fun. And I looked at him and was like, is this a plot to convert me back to naturism? And he was like, no, not at all. It'll be lots of fun. You do have to be naked, but it's lots of good volleyball. So I said, yeah, sure. I don't know why. I was just, yeah, I'll do it. And then it didn't really hit me until I was 7 hours into the car ride that I was going to have to get naked. And I was like, well, I came this far and I'm not going to hide out in the trailer, so I'm going to go for it. So the first night we were just drinking late at night. So some people had their clothes on, some didn't. So I was like, oh, I'll just wear my clothes for tonight. I think at one point I wanted like a boob stamp or something. So I flashed everyone my tits, and that was interesting. Woo, yay. And then the next morning, one of my friends, Mark, he looked at me and was like, you're not going to get naked, are you? You're going to chicken out. So I went in the tent trailer, got undressed, came out and looked at him and was like, fuck you, I did it. And the biggest smile, and he was shocked, which was priceless, really. So, and then, yeah, that's kind of how I got back into it.
And so was that weekend awkward or comfortable?
No, it was great, actually. I think it was easier for me to get back into naturism in a setting where people weren't familiar with me wearing clothes, just because people didn't know anything different. They just thought I was just a regular naked person running around. I was keeping busy all weekend, playing volleyball, drinking, having fun with my friends, and no one said anything. Everyone was super supportive. Looking back now, some people did say things, but not directly to me. It was more like amongst themselves quietly, which was more preferred, because drawing attention to young people when they're just getting back into it's just a really touchy subject. And if you approach it the wrong way, you can scare people off.
Yes, I remember because I was there as well. And you were quite enthusiastic, I would say.
I think that may have been the drinking, but it was also very liberating. Because by that point, I was more confident in myself as well. So about like 15, 16, I was already like super confident in myself. I was like, I don't care if people see me, like whatever, no big deal. So when I was there, I was like, wow, this is so liberating not having clothes on. And I think that was the first time too that like guys had taken an interest in me, and I was like, wow, boys think I'm cute.
So now you are a little bit older, and so what do you like now?
Just don't like, I'm very carefree. I'm definitely confident, no filter. I'm very open about my life, and I definitely don't judge people that's one thing I really like about naturism, is that I don't judge people for what they look like. I just accept them for who they are as people. And that's something I love about the lifestyle. And
you work here and you're nude all the time.
It's true, actually. I actually just texted because I have coworkers in Guelph, and I'm leaving on Sunday, which I'm really sad about. And they were talking about how they were moving, and I was just like, I only have 4 days to be naked, and then I have to go back to the textile world. And I had a sad face, and all my friends were just like laughing at me. But it is sad. It's my little haven, and then I have to go back to the real world, and I put that in quotations because societal norms and being constricted by like what you wear, it's not fun.
No, in fact, I've seen you become pretty hardcore, and I've seen you criticize teenagers for wearing clothes around here.
Yeah, well, Mark specifically, which is a friend of mine. Yeah, I've done that a couple times. It's mostly when I drink, and I'm like, why are you wearing clothes when you should be naked? No, actually, we've had some younger kids, like 12, 13, who've like worn clothes around the resort. And for me, it's really important that they don't experience the first experience I had at Bear Oaks, where I was approached by an adult I didn't know. And then we had to talk about being naked. And I'm like, who are you? Why am I having this pamphlet? This isn't constructive. And that turned me away from naturism even more. So for me, like having this experience of being stubborn and being rebellious and then coming back to naturism, I think that's very valuable for young girls who are going through the same thing I am. So I always like, if they're having a hard time, I talk to the parents just to the side. I say, hey, you know, like I've been through this. If you need to talk, like if she needs someone to talk to, I'm more than willing to sit there and listen. I actually did that for a young girl a couple years ago, and she thanked me for it because she ended up really liking the lifestyle.
So for those 5 years or so you were here, you had 3 sisters and a brother who all participated. How did you feel? Were you angry? Were you frustrated? Or did you enjoy those years anyway?
I was quite sad towards the end of it. Looking back, I do like regret not going into it sooner. I do understand though, like I needed that time to grow into myself, and like reflecting back on it, that was really important for me because it shaped who I am today. So I don't regret not getting in sooner, but I do at the same time, just because I did like miss out on some fun times. I'm definitely catching up for it now, with my sisters through the summer. And my brother's actually not really a part of the lifestyle anymore. He's naked at home, of course, but just doesn't like being at the trailer because I don't know why. But
Well, with 5 kids, 2 adults, it's pretty crowded, and he's working a lot too, right? So
yeah. But yeah, no, I definitely did feel like I missed out on some experiences when I was growing up. However, I think me being on the campsite also really provided me with the opportunity to develop some of my art skills, which then I ended up going to high school for the 4-year intensive program, and then I'm still pursuing art today on the side. So I think that was really important to shape who I am as a person.
So what advice would you have for parents? What should people do? What shouldn't they do when they have a, should we say, rebellious young person?
It's definitely, you can't force it on them. That's like the number one thing. You have to be supportive of your child's decision. I would say drawing attention to the fact that they're not participating makes them want to rebel even more. And then making them feel bad about it or guilting them, not a good tactic as well. You just have to support them in their decision. And ultimately, if they don't want to come back to the lifestyle, you're just going to have to accept it. But the goal in mind is that if you support your child and you listen to them, if you listen to why they're doing what they're doing, if you stop and think to yourself, why is my child being like, why are they acting in a certain way? I can't understand them. You should just ask them. Just say, hey, why don't you want to be a part of the lifestyle? Why don't you want to undress? And then sit there and actually listen to them, like hear what they have to say. And if they're not ready to talk about it, just wait until they are ready. Because one day they'll come to you, and then when you do, you're there to listen. And I think that would help not only like, I think it would help more too with like your bond as like a parent and a child. I think that would actually grow the family closer.
So is there anything your parents could have done that would have made you decide to come back sooner?
I think before I like came to Bear Oaks too, like when I was starting to go through puberty, my parents had like been like, oh my gosh, you're growing boobs. And I was like, whoa, please. Like, I hate attention. So when you point stuff out like that, it just makes me uncomfortable. And so my parents did that. And I was like, oh, that was a bad thing for you to do. Because now I'm self-conscious about that for no reason when I was like carefree before. Yeah, you just have to love them for who they are. And I think my parents, rather than like definitely like guilting me into going back into naturism, being like, oh, you should be with your family. Like, why aren't you being like everyone else? And if my parents had just asked me like, why are you being like this? I think we could have talked about it. And I think we could have started doing it at home where like I trusted my family, and then like brought it back to the camp.
So after Whitethorn, though, you did come back, and obviously you're comfortable now. What was it like when you come back after 5 years of being the absolutely no way person?
It was an interesting experience. That's what I can definitely say. So when I came back, actually, I continued to wear clothes for a little bit. And that was because everyone around here knew me, and I didn't like the attention, and I knew people were going to say stuff, and they did, which confirmed my suspicions. But it got to the point where I was like, fuck it. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to let people drawing attention to me live and dictate my decisions. So I started slowly, actually. So I didn't participate in the July tournament, or I think I did, but I wore shorts. I had like no shirt. So I was like slowly integrating other people. It wasn't for me. It was more for other people to be comfortable seeing me naked. It sounds really odd. I don't know why I did what I did. But like my best friends, my dad's best friend, he was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to see you naked. Like, you're my daughter. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with seeing your daughter naked. Like, that's the most natural thing in the world. So I just integrated them slowly, and then eventually took my shorts and my shirt off. And then once they were like, I didn't need to see that. But once they had seen it, it was fine. So like after that, it was like smooth sailing. It was just the odd comments here and there of people just like bringing their 2 cents into my life. And I was like, no, you don't have the right to make an opinion towards my life. So
You said, I think like most teenagers, you don't want attention. You don't want attention brought to yourself. Didn't you feel that by wearing clothes, you were actually bringing lots of attention to yourself?
Yeah, that too. I did. Towards the end, I was like, yeah, people are just like looking at me. It makes me uncomfortable. So I would hide in the trailer more often. Yeah, I don't know what was going through my like young, youthful mind. Because looking back, like I don't understand sometimes. Like I'm processing why I did what I did. But like ultimately, I just did it. So yeah, still figuring that out.
So all the attention, once you did start to participate again, could have turned you back if you weren't as determined, right?
Oh yeah, at that point I decided that like I think ultimately the best thing that I got out of this experience was that I grew a backbone and just decided not to care what people think. So now I'm pretty like in tune with attention and I don't really care about it. Which I think is a good life skill to have. Yeah.
So advice for teenagers out there?
I don't know. I would say just give it a try. Bring a friend. It's easier to do it when you have like multiple people with you. Especially to like going back to parents. Sorry for jumping back and forth. If there's more kids their age, especially when they're going through puberty, like the 12, 13-year-old age, and there's lots of girls their age, they go through it together. And I find that's an experience I didn't have. I had my twin brother, but like, I was like, is your vagina bleeding too? No? Oh, great talk. You know what I mean? So like, I definitely went through puberty myself versus like my sister's very fortunate that she has 5 or 6 friends her age and they've gone through that together. Just for people like who are going, like, are we like aiming at like the 12, 13 age gap, or like the 14, 15? Like, what are you looking for?
All of them.
All of them?
Well, 12, 13, you're looking more at the parents then having the influence, right? But 14, 15, it's more, we're talking to them, I guess, because it's them. The parents have no influence anymore at that age.
Yeah, are we talking about tips for like rebellious teenagers trying it for the first time? Like,
Why should you do it if you're a teenager?
why? I think it's great. Like nowadays, like you look at Victoria's Secret and you look at all these like commercials and stuff like that, and everything's so fake. But when you come here, it changes your perspective on life and just how you look at things in general. I think for me, like body confidence and self-esteem's one of the best gifts in life that you can give to yourself. It's just like loving your body for who you are and not caring what other people think, and just aiming to be healthy versus aiming to be skinny. Aiming to be healthy is a very attainable goal, but you can go your whole life fighting to be skinny and never get there. And it's just an endless battle. So for me, that's probably the most important thing. Yeah. What was the question again? Sorry.
No, that's a good answer. So here at Bare Oaks, we're not clothing optional. Nudity is expected. The only place you can keep your clothes on if you're a teenager is on your campsite, which is what you were doing.
Yeah.
What do you think of that policy?
I think it's great. Back then I was like, this is so dumb. Like, why? And I had people telling me like other options, like, oh, you could wear a long t-shirt for a bit and then you can like take it off. And I was like, oh, I don't like that either. But I think it's better to make it fully nude versus clothing optional. And like, I understand the reasoning now for that. It just has everyone on the same playing field. I'm definitely more comfortable with everyone being naked. I think it attracts less people who come for the wrong reasons as well. Because people can't just come for the day and then not get naked, which has happened at like other resorts who are clothing optional, I think. Yeah, it definitely, it's hard at first when you have to get naked in the beginning, but once you do it, you don't look back. You just have fun.
So Nicole actually has some very good advice for both parents and teenagers. And I mean, every situation is different. I told you earlier that my 2 boys were different and reacted differently. So there's no magical solution in some cases. It's just a matter of patience, and it's just a matter of respecting the fact that they are who they are and they're going to do what they want to do as they develop. I think it's probably built into our DNA at some point that when you mature, when you reach puberty, you're supposed to leave the tribe and go and find a mate somewhere else to spread the DNA and get more variety. So that independence is not surprising. But, there is something for teenagers in naturism, and they can enjoy it. You heard that Nicole did once she got there again. But then there are teenagers who never leave. Again, one of my sons didn't. One of my sons did. So you've heard from Peter Allison in the past. He's our big volleyball organizer. And his daughter, Christine, is a teenager who has never left. And I thought it'd be interesting to hear what she had to say. Hi, Christine. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So how long have you been a naturist?
Well, since before I was born, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's probably true. I bet your mom, when she was pregnant with you. And how old are you now?
I'm currently 15.
Are you still a naturist?
Yes, I am.
And have you ever felt like you shouldn't be a naturist, or you were embarrassed of being a naturist?
Well, I've never really been embarrassed about it. I've been a bit scared to tell my friends, but once I told them, they didn't really care. And it's just something fun to do with family and just letting your body out there and not being afraid of who you are.
So there was never a time where you started feeling shy, even though you've gone or are going through puberty. I think you've mostly gone through puberty at this point, right?
Yes.
So,
I've never really been shy about it because I've had other friends around the same age as me in naturism at Bare Oaks, and we've hung out a lot and we've discussed these things together. So it's been really open.
So was there ever a time that you were uncomfortable with the fact that your body was changing?
Well, I remember when I first started getting boobs, one came in before the other. That was a bit uncomfortable. But other than that, there's never really been a problem with being uncomfortable with my body.
Did anybody ever make you feel uncomfortable?
Well, when I was in grade 7 and 8, around the age that girls start wearing bras, everyone would give me odd looks and they'd talk behind my back about the fact that I didn't wear one. And about how, weird my boobs were, and that was a bit uncomfortable. But other than that, everything was fine.
So, ironically, the discomfort was when you were wearing clothes.
Yes, it's very ironic.
So, you're in high school now, do you wear a bra?
I still don't wear a bra, and when I tell my friends, we mostly laugh about it.
So nobody gives you a hard time?
Well, most people don't even notice, and no one gives me a hard time.
Now, I think I recall a story where an adult gave you a hard time.
Yeah, when I was in grade 6, a teacher took me aside and told me that I should be wearing a bra. And I was just said no, pretty much. I don't like bras. They're uncomfortable.
Did the teacher give you a reason why you should wear a bra?
No, there really isn't any reason. It was just, you should wear a bra because everyone else is.
Funny reason, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, why do you think you are still comfortable at Bare Oaks? Because I've heard, a lot of teenagers who shy away from naturism. Why do you think it's okay with you?
Well, my whole family's in it, and I think that people who shy away might be trying to, get away from their families or, try to be unique, whereas I'm just comfortable with who I am. I don't care what other people think, so I'm just going to do what I want to do instead of caring about others.
And you have an older brother as well, and he hasn't shied from naturism either, has he?
No, he hasn't. We hang out a lot, and he's just fine with being naked. In fact, I'll wake up in the morning, and he'll just be walking around naked some days.
Do you still enjoy going to Bare Oaks?
Yes, I still enjoy going to Bare Oaks. There are a lot of other young people there, and we hang out, and we go in the pond, and there's a bunch of other fun things to do.
Because sometimes people want to stay home because they want to hang out with their friends from school. Is that not the case with you?
Well, I do like hanging out with my friends, but I live kind of far away from all my friends, and I have friends at Bare Oaks too, and I only get to see them during the summer.
So would you have any advice for parents who have children who aren't teenagers yet to make sure that they continue to be comfortable hanging out in naturism?
If I had to think about it, I'd say just let them be themselves. Don't try to force it on them. Just make sure that there's lots of other young people they can talk to. If they want to talk about like their changing bodies, just be completely open about it. I think that would help.
And then something which people tell me doesn't happen, but it does. We have teenagers who come to naturism who have not had any experience with it. For them, it's actually perhaps the other way around. Perhaps it's a rebellion against their parents. Perhaps it's an attempt to be their own person and create their own identity. But we have one such young lady I thought I would interview. Her name is also Christine, and she has an interesting story to tell.
My name's Christine, and I'm 16.
So you've been to Bear Oaks before?
Yes.
How many times?
Oh, all the time. I love going. I don't know. I've probably been about the last 3 summers, every Sunday, most of the time.
So when you first came, was about 3 years ago?
Yeah, probably.
And whose idea was it?
Mine, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it was suggested, and then I begged my mom, and then we finally went.
And what did your mom think when you suggested it?
She didn't not like the idea, but she wasn't, I guess, comfortable with it. And then we went, and then it just happened.
And the first time was how?
It was nervous. I was nervous the first time, a little uncomfortable, but then after I kept going, I just became comfortable and I just loved it.
So why do you think you wanted to go?
I've never done it. To say I've tried something new, I guess.
But there's lots of new things you have tried that maybe aren't as hard as this.
I just wanted to do it. Say I've done it. Check it off the bucket list, I guess.
But now you're just doing more than just doing it once. You're doing it.
Now I do it all the time.
And your dad?
Doesn't like the idea. Will not go.
But is okay with you going?
Yeah.
And your mom, obviously.
Yeah.
And you have a brother?
I do. He doesn't. I've tried to convince him multiple times to come with us, and he's like, no, I don't want to do it.
Is he younger or older than you?
Younger.
Younger. So you have come several times, and you've brought friends too.
I have. I brought my friend Caitlin with me and her sister, and they love it too.
And was that hard to convince them? Because had they ever been?
They hadn't been, and they wanted to come too, I think. So we were like, do you want to come with us? And they said yes.
It all sounds like it's really easy, but...
Yeah. I don't know. I was nervous the first time, but after a while, you just kind of accept it because everyone's doing it, and it's just kind of the normal there, so...
So why do you think you like it? What is it you like about it?
I don't really know. I just like it. I just find it freeing, and it's I don't care about what I look like. It's just kind of I'm there, right? I don't find it weird to just be naked around people because everyone else there is naked, so why should I be afraid of it?
Mm-hmm. But everything you do there, you could do somewhere else. You can go swimming somewhere else. You can play volleyball somewhere else. You can hang out with people anywhere. What makes that different?
It's like a family community kind of thing. I don't know. I love going. That's
which is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of that for obvious reasons.
Yes.
So do you talk to your friends about it?
Some of my friends know, but not all of them.
And when you've mentioned it, what was their reaction?
They were shocked. They were like, why do you do that? I'm like, because I like doing it.
Did they think you were weird because of that?
A little. But then I was like, I don't care what you think.
That's good. That's unusual. Don't most teenagers really care?
Some do, but I don't. I'm like, whatever. I want to do it. I like it. That's my thing, not yours.
Now, a lot of people say that the reason teens don't come to naturist places is because they're ashamed of their bodies, or they're very uncomfortable because their bodies are changing. How do you feel about that?
I think it's wrong. I think you should love your body. And with Bare Oaks, like, that helped me a lot. Because now I don't care as much. Like, before I did, but now I'm like, we all look the same. What's the big deal?
So you cared, but you came anyway, so...
Yeah, and then I just, like, lost that care. And now I'm, like, okay with it.
Now, the friends you don't tell, why don't you tell them?
I don't feel the need I don't think they need to know sometimes. But, like, or maybe I just think they'll, like, make fun of me. But...
Has anybody made fun of you?
No.
Not even your brother?
Well, he's my brother. He makes fun of me for everything. So.
Sure, that's his job, right?
Yeah.
And have you asked anybody who won't come?
No, I've asked people, and they were like, yeah, I would come, but we've just never picked a day to come. I don't think anyone said no to it. They were, like, all interested.
So what do you think naturism is? Is it being naked?
That's a part of it, but I think it's, like, accepting yourself and just kind of being you, just, like, being you, I guess. I don't know. That's a tough question.
It is a tough question. And you have to sort of analyze how you feel and why you are enjoying what you're enjoying, why people don't do it. Why do you think it's so difficult for people from the rest of the world to participate?
Because they're not comfortable with their bodies, or they think it's weird. Stuff like that, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think your dad doesn't come?
He doesn't do anything. So I think he doesn't go camping, he doesn't do anything. So this is just another thing he won't do.
He's not the outdoorsy guy.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that's too outdoors for him, I guess. Yeah, that's it. He's too outdoors.
And for your brother?
He likes to play video games and sit at home and do absolutely nothing. So going outside is not his thing.
So you don't play video games?
Nope.
So why... So you don't think it's a body shame thing that he might have?
No, I don't think so. I think he just doesn't want to do it because he may feel uncomfortable or awkward, maybe.
Yeah, well, some people suggest it's easier for guys than for women. Do you think that's true?
No, I think it just depends on the person. Like, yeah, I think it depends on the person. Like, for me, it was like, I was uncomfortable at the beginning. I found it hard, but after just going and seeing everyone around me, it was just kind of like, why should I care? They're not paying attention. Like, they're doing their own thing. So, yeah.
So do you see this being part of your life in the future?
Of course, yeah. I beg my mom to go every summer, so, yeah.
So the problem is you don't have a car or you don't have a way to get there.
Can't drive myself yet,
Yeah.
but getting there.
And there's no transit.
Yeah. I'm almost allowed to drive by myself. September.
And then you can just come up whenever you want.
Yep.
Well, at least whenever you can
When I
borrow.
have the car, yeah.
So we're still left with the question as to why teenagers leave naturism. And I have my theory or my own observations. The number one is, that the club does not make them feel comfortable. It could be that it's not about true naturist values. I know of an adult who grew up in naturism, and their club was one that was very objectifying, and people were always commenting on her body. She went through puberty, and she felt it was a little creepy, the way that men were talking to her. And that happens when you have a place where it's not a true naturist philosophy, or where the people who manage the club don't enforce anti-harassment policy and don't ensure that the proper behavior happens. Plus, as you heard from Nicole, the thing that teenagers don't want is attention. They don't want to stand out. They don't want people to comment on things that they feel a little uncomfortable about. So if the club does not make them feel comfortable, or worse, makes them feel uncomfortable, then they'll leave. The other option is that the club doesn't offer them opportunities. Now, there's all kinds of opportunities. There's opportunities to hang out with like-minded people, other teens. And that's a very tough one, because if you have no teens and there's only one teen, it's very difficult to have them. But also you have to make sure there's opportunities for them to do things they like to do. They like to be on their own. They like to find their own spaces. And they need jobs. So why not employ those teens? That's one way for sure that you can keep them around, because they need to work, they need the experience, and the club probably needs the help. The third reason is that sometimes, and that was the case with my youngest son, their social circles are at home with their school friends. They want to fit in with those friends. They want to hang out with those friends. So first of all, being a naturist, if you are in the textile world, probably isn't cool, and it could be an object of derision, and they're made fun of. So that could be a reason why they pull away. A fourth reason is related to the third one, is that they want to develop their own identity. And sometimes it means doing the opposite of what your parents do. Sometimes it means trying to be very different from what your parents. Or sometimes it means picking something which is very opposite to what your parents have been doing. They want to be themselves. Also, and this was also the case, I think, although he didn't admit it with my youngest, is they'd rather stay at home because their parents go to the club, so they get to be on their own. They have freedom. I mean, I liked that when I was a kid, when my parents left for the weekend or went on vacations and left us behind. That was awesome. We had, total freedom to be adults and play house. So you can't do anything about that. You can't do anything about the rebellion. You can't do anything with their friends not being at the park. But you can make sure you have a club where they feel comfortable. And you can make sure you have a club where they have things to do and opportunities. And if you do, then some will stay. And you won't lose as many. But you will lose some. There's really nothing you can do about that. Hopefully, if they've been raised with the values that make sense, and they appreciate it because they were good and they had fun, they might come back later. It happens. Nicole came back. And once they have more maturity, they'll realize that naturism is a wonderful philosophy and a great way to be and a great way to live. And the relationships that they have in those places are so much better, so much more meaningful, so much more real. So don't despair. You will lose some. It's okay. Try to keep them if you can. Don't give up either. But appreciate that the challenge is one that, this goes back to the beginning of the movement. If you go back to the beginning of the movement, you will read articles about the problem with youth, the problem with attracting youth, the fickleness of youth, and all that stuff. And it doesn't matter what movement. Religions have the same problems. If your parents are vegetarian, your kids will be meat eaters, possibly because they want to rebel as well. It's the way of the world. There is no getting around that. And so let's stop worrying about the fact that they leave, and let's just try to make it as inclusive and welcoming as possible so that those who want to stay are comfortable, and that those who are intrigued and have no experience will come. So that's all for this episode of the Naturist Living Show. Thank you as always for listening. Again, my name is Stéphane Deschênes. I'm your host for this podcast and the owner of Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. We have a new producer that is helping put together the show, and her name is Samantha Challoner. She's going to help keep things organized and arrange for interviews, and perhaps get involved in putting together the show eventually at some point. You can find links to all the items I mentioned in the show notes on our website, which is naturistliving.show.com. And please keep sending your comments and your suggestions. It really means a lot. I appreciate reading them. I read them all. I don't always have a chance to respond to everyone, but I try. The show's email address is contact@naturistlivingshow.com. You can also call and leave a comment. You can take as many tries as you like and even delete it if you're not happy when you're done. So I can't promise I'll use it, but I will definitely listen to it, and there's a good chance it'll make it on the show. You dial 905-473-6060, country code 1, and extension 333, or toll free in the US and Canada, 1-888-373-9124. You can also use Skype. The Skype name is Bear Oaks. And again, all that gets you into the phone system for Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. And then you just dial the show's extension, which is 333. I hope you enjoyed the show and that you'll join us again for the next episode of the Naturist Living Show.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show was brought to you by Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. Traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Traditional values means that naturism is more than just taking your clothes off. It is a life philosophy with physical, psychological, environmental, social, and moral benefits. Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park strives to promote those naturist values in a modern setting that provides the amenities and services that our members and visitors expect. Free your body, free your mind. Learn more at www.bearoaks.ca.